It is now my pleasure to introduce Lyz Liddell, who, as I mentioned a moment ago, is the Director of Campus Organizing for the Secular Student Alliance. How many of you read Blag Hag or know who Jen McCrate is? Or, okay, Boobquake? Anybody? Okay, yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Jen McCrate made a list of famous women in the atheist movement, and Lyz Liddell made the list, and her flavor text was somehow manages to organize and support hundreds of campus groups without exploding. And this is true. Lyz is fantastically good at her job and is really kind of the pinnacle of SSA usefulness to the affiliate groups that it seeks to support. And Lyz is now going to speak on a topic that is interesting to many people. There are those who've said that Jesus came to take away the sting of death. Well, Lyz is going to take away the sting of death for your campus group, and probably not mention Jesus. Anyway, please welcome me, and please join me in welcoming Lyz Liddell.
All right. Oh, I'm dropping it. Get on there. Okay. Before I officially get started with the meat of this, I want to take one moment, and I'm going to thoroughly embarrass someone. Nate, will you stand up? Nate Mauger has done so much work on this conference that this would not be here if he were not in the office helping us out. So I'd love to give him a great round of applause for all of the work he's put into this. So, here we are. We're going to talk about cheating death, why campus groups die, and how you can save yours. So let's get started a little bit. How many people are in some sort of leadership role with campus group right now? Yeah, how many people are thinking about becoming a leader or have been leaders? Yeah, all right, we got a couple. Good, good. Here's the harsh reality. Campus groups die. It's a fact. We even have empirical evidence to support it. We have about 10% of all SSA affiliates that vanish every semester. Every semester, I'm sure those of you in leadership roles know the emails I send out hounding you to fill out this survey telling me that you really are still alive. We lose about 10% of our groups every semester through that. That is 1 in 10. One dead group for every 9 that survive. In first-year groups, it's actually higher. It's 13.5% of groups that just started within the last 2 semesters that end up disappearing. They end up dying out. There's your comparison pie. So here's the question. What can we learn from this? Now that we've got the data to work from, I spent a significant chunk of time last semester going through several years' worth of data from these surveys, finding out what groups have been doing, what they haven't been doing. And we learned 2 things. First, groups that die, groups that disappear, generally, before they die, have been less active in every area I ask questions about. Secondly, leadership failures account for the vast majority of group failures. By leadership failures, I mean any kind of event that interferes with the leadership of the group. So you can have things like a leader getting burned out, injuries or accidents, poor leadership transitions when one leader graduates and the new leaders aren't really prepared to take over, internal fighting between leaders, all of these count. We lump these and call them leadership failures. On the good news, we can help. There are ways you can save your group. We've got 4 attention areas that you can look at as places to take action that can help your group become more durable and become more likely to survive. This should start to look like your handouts now. They don't quite line up, but we get close. So we have infrastructure elements, activity, we'll get more into these as we go, support for your group, and then obviously leadership. As we talk about these, bear in mind the capacity of your individual group. Trying to do more than your group is capable of can be just as bad as letting your group die from not trying to do anything. So be aware of your limitations, be aware of your capacity, don't overextend yourselves too much. Area 1, every building needs a good foundation, so does your group. So let's talk about infrastructure. Every group that's affiliated with the Secular Student Alliance, I would be delighted if every single group had some kind of web presence. Either a website, a blog, a Facebook group, a Google page, the Google groups that have the pages that come with them. A meetup would work. I think I have 2 groups out of 220 that still use MySpace. Any sort of web presence where someone can click on a link and go learn about your group online. That's what you need. This is a must-have. You have to have this. That said, don't overextend yourself. Again, if you don't have a bunch of people in your group who are really good web programmers, maybe you don't want to build your own website from scratch. Facebook groups really are extremely useful tools. Most of the infrastructure for them in the back end is taken care of by somebody else. That's awesome. So don't feel bad if all your group has is a Facebook group. It's a great place to get started. We'll get a little bit more into this later, but if you have a web presence, please make sure it's updated. I know that when I go looking for your groups, when you haven't gotten back to me every semester, one of the first places I go is your web presence, and I look to see, have there been any updates in the last days, weeks, months? Wow, that says April 11th. Was that this year or last year? So make sure that your web presences are updated. You also want to have an email announcement list. This is not just your Facebook group where you message all members. This is for all the people who are in too many Facebook groups or don't want their parents to know that they're atheists or are interested in your big events but not all of your little events. It's really, really common for you to have hundreds of names on your email announcement list and maybe only like 50 people in your Facebook group. That's totally okay. Oops. One of the biggest things that this email announcement list will do for you that a Facebook group will not is enable you to add people to it. You can invite people to a group, sure. You can tell people to join your group, but you're putting it then in the other person's control of whether they actually join or not. With an email announcement list, if you're out tabling on the quad, you just have people write down their email addresses, and then it's in your hands. You have the ability to reach out to them. You're not dependent on them to come to you. And this is a great, great tool for that. So Google groups, Yahoo groups, if you PHP list, if you start getting into really big groups, and there's a gajillion other ways out there that you can do it. Regular meetings. You'll hear this from me a lot. I don't care what you do in your meetings. Have them. Have them regularly. Have them at the same day, the same time, and if you can, the same place, or at least the same building. Because having these regular meetings makes your group a habit. And we are creatures of habit, as much as we might want to deny it. If we get used to going to something every Thursday night, then we know that we need to keep Thursday nights clear, and that, hey, it's Thursday, I have Students for Free Thought to go to. If you don't have these regular meetings, you're losing a really big opportunity to get people invested in your group on a regular basis. Brochures or business cards. Again, it doesn't really matter what it is as long as it is some sort of tangible piece of paper with contact information for your group written on it that you can hand to other human beings. If you need business cards, we have a business card service. We'll be happy to send you a set of business cards free. Otherwise, designing brochures and running them off, even flyers or leaflets will do a perfectly good job of this. A couple other areas that surviving groups have, they're not as critical as these first 4. Having a bank account. This is helpful because if you don't have a bank account, you can't get money from us. And we have a lot of money to give you guys, so get a bank account. Office space can be really cool, but a lot of groups don't have it and do just fine. A campus mailbox, formal membership systems, that sort of thing. They're nice to have, but focus on these first 4 first. Now that you've got your infrastructure in place, let's move on to what your group actually is going to do. Much like exercise is good for you physically, it's good for your group. Regular meetings. Does this sound familiar? It's the first thing you should be doing. Don't start planning to bring Richard Dawkins if you are not having regular meetings. These have to come first. The second one I'd recommend is tabling and outreach activities. I was skeptical of this until I had a group from Wright State University come to me and say, hey Liz, we've been tabling every week in our student union or in our quad, and we've gained 200 members from it in about the course of 1 quarter of the school year. Like they're on a quarter system, not semester. So 1 quarter, they'd gained hundreds of people involved in their group just from being out on the quad every single Wednesday. So this can do wonders for your group in getting people aware of it, getting people engaged, and again, it's one of those habitual activities that gets your members invested and habitually invested into your group. Expand out from those two. Here's some easy ones. Find a local speaker, get the leader of an off-campus humanist group, or find a biology professor who wants to come talk about stem cell research or something like that. They're easy, they can fit into your regular meetings, they don't take a huge amount of planning, and they're not a big drain on energy or resources. Movie showings are good, and socials. Hey, we're all going to go have coffee. Let's have brunch on Sunday. Very easy to set up, get people involved. From there, move on to things that are a little bigger, service projects, having panel events where you bring a couple of speakers together to talk about a topic, cooperative meetings to promote dialogue. Maybe you want to reach out. The Illini Secular Student Alliance just reached out to their Muslim Student Association, had a cooperative meeting. Again, these are things that don't require a huge amount of energy or planning, but they're a little bit bigger than that first stage. Then you want to build up to your big name speakers. This is where you start looking at bringing in Hitchens or P.Z. Myers, these big speakers, Dan Barker, you want to advertise to your whole campus. Debates, organizing your own service projects. These do take a lot more planning, so you don't want to start off on these, but they're great to build up to. We have a lot of resources and services to help you with these. We have a speakers bureau, we have project grants, we have activity packets. If you're looking at doing any of these and you're not quite sure where to get started, contact us. We'll get you set on the right path and with the tools that'll help you do it successfully. Let's talk about support. You want to, as a campus group, build a relationship with an outside entity. Doesn't, again, matter so much who this is as that you're doing it. And when you do it, you remember that you want someone who's going to watch your group, not dictate your group. All right. That takes a little unpacking. So let's talk about watchers versus dictators. A watcher wants to know what you're doing. Dictator wants to run your group. A watcher wants to help, and they'll ask how they can help. A dictator will come in and tell you what to do and how to do it. You want someone who's going to listen to your ideas rather than telling you what to do, and wants to be invited rather than has to be involved in everything and gets upset if they aren't. A watcher should check in periodically. They're not doing you much good if they're off in space and have no idea what you're doing. But if someone's not leaving you alone, that might cause some problems. Watchers trust you to run your group. This is a big thing. A lot of times you'll get involved with outside entities who get this idea that students aren't capable of running their groups. Clearly, you need the experience of a seasoned professional, they think they know what's best and don't trust you. And you want someone who does. You want someone who understands that you are competent adults and can do this. A watcher might look a little more like this. Here's your dictator. Take your pick. Some possible, this is organizations, really, that's not really the word I want, more like possible partners. An off-campus group. If you have a local off-campus humanist group, a chapter of the American Humanist Association or American Atheists, they're a great resource to build a partnership with. The Secular Student Alliance and the Center for Inquiry on Campus, neither organization is exclusive, affiliate with both. Having an active advisor can be fantastic for your group. I hear we have one here. Active alumni, someone who's graduated and still hangs around and checks in periodically, can be very valuable. As can an off-campus supporter. They don't have to have been associated with the school or your group originally. Even just one person off campus can make a big difference. Again, the SSA has services and resources for how to find and how to work with off-campus partnerships. Come to us, we can help. I'm going to skim over this because Andrew's got a talk later this morning that's going to talk more about planning leadership transitions, so I don't want to steal his thunder. But if you do nothing else, work on your group's leadership. Huge proportion of groups that die were in their first or second generation of leadership. How many people in this room founded the group that's on their campus? How many people are founders? Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. How many people took over or are taking over from the founders? Keep your hands up. Everybody who's had their hands up, keep them up. It's a lot of you. You're in this danger zone. These first two generations are the critical times when groups are most likely to die out. So it's up to you to not let that happen. Here's our typical situation that I see when I look at the groups that have vanished. The group will have had 1 or 2 really strong, charismatic, enthusiastic leaders who are very competent, but they're so involved in the nuts and bolts and the here and now of running the organization, they don't really think forward. This happens a lot with people who are starting groups, because I know it and you know it. There's a lot going on when you're starting a group. You're trying to get your paperwork done, you're trying to find an advisor, you're trying to find officers, you're trying to find members. Planning for after you graduate seems so far away, but I promise you, trust me, it will come faster than you think, so think forward. So then we have these leaders, they either graduate or they burn out, and there's no one with the preparation, knowledge, or motivation to continue the group. This happens a lot. I'm not saying it is a death sentence. There are ways to avoid it, but be aware that it's a possibility and prepare so it doesn't happen to you. So how do we save your group? Don't be the only leader. Recruit multiple engaged officers. These are officers who are going to come to meetings and help you get things done and help plan events and go out flyering. These aren't just people who are going to sign your paperwork so that your group is official on campus. If you are having trouble with having officers that are not engaged, talk to me. It's a common problem, but it's a little specialized, so I'm not going to address it here. Delegate, delegate, delegate. We're going to talk about this a little bit. Delegation is a skill, it can be learned, and it's not always an easy skill. Start with organization. If you don't know what you're asking people to do, it's really hard to ask them to do it. So know what you're asking them to do and why before you get started. When you are delegating, be specific. Have a specific task that you want them to accomplish. Be clear so they know exactly what you're asking them to do. Include a precise due date, next Tuesday, the 13th of November. By the end of this semester, rather than sometime in the next few weeks or next month. Because your students, you know how this works. Due date means something is due. Sometime in the future means it's not. Name one unambiguous responsible party. Axton, I'm going to ask you to do this. Not, will some officer maybe do this sometime? Will you do this for me? That way they know that they're the responsible person. Make a note for yourself to check in on it, do some follow-up. And accept that sometimes you're going to have to delegate a task to someone who won't do as good a job of it as you would. It sucks, it's hard, I hate it, you're going to hate it, but we have to get over it because this is how this works. You're helping people learn, and you can't do everything yourself. However, when a volunteer does something too poorly to use, let them know. And remember that, again, this is all about learning. Offer to help them next time so that they can learn how to do it better. If you just yank it back, they're confused and possibly are upset because they don't know what's going on. And then they're not getting the opportunity to learn how to do it correctly. So then when you graduate, you have an officer who's frustrated and doesn't know what's going on. Remember, the buck does stop with you. It's up to you to delegate and to follow these rules so that things do get done. Train your future leaders. Create and use a succession plan. Don't slam on the brakes. Don't continue running your group 100% until the day you graduate and move off campus. Phase out your involvement. We love to see leaders running the group who are juniors and then step back as seniors and let the next generation of leaders come through so that they're still around, they're still involved, they can still help and give advice. They're not just gone. If you're on the other side of this, don't abandon your successors. Even if you do graduate and you leave, stay in touch, respond to emails, say hi, check in every once in a while. Your group will appreciate it and you'll feel warm and fuzzy inside. If you need help, ask. My contact information is everywhere. I'm sure you all know how to get a hold of me. If you don't, I'm like in 5 places in the booklet. So feel free to shoot me an email or catch me on Facebook or chat or stone paper airplanes or whatever floats your boat. There we are. So good luck. Come to me with questions. I do have a whopping 3 minutes. Are there any off-the-floor questions? That's either a bad sign or a good sign. Not sure which. Look at that. There's a question.
I guess we've been having a problem with small group size. Mm-hmm. And what are some other suggestions other than just having people at tables year round?
Sure. Flyers are really good. Chalking, if your campus permits it. I found out recently that in places like Texas, they don't let you chalk on your campus.
Poor Texas.
Yeah, it doesn't rain there. Using Facebook to reach out to people. Word of mouth is extremely powerful. Ask your members to bring a friend with them next time. And just keep doing it. It's not. Sometimes we get into this idea that we feel like recruitment is a one-time event. It really is ongoing. So it's yes, it's a little more work, but get out there and put flyers up for every meeting. If you have resources on your campus for student events, like a listing of upcoming events on a website or a campus newspaper or something like that, get in it. Make sure your groups are visible. Make sure that your group is showing up on your campus student activities page and that has information to it. So that people can find you. And then just keep working at it. Word of mouth, flyering, advertising. I've had groups try Facebook ads. I can't say that they've always been successful, but it's definitely worth a try.
Have you found that there's a sort of minimum number of people that is necessary to sustain the group, and then is there sort of a tipping point above which there's no problem and the group becomes self-sustaining?
I wish I could say there was a point at which a group becomes totally self-sustaining, but the reality of it is that because students graduate every 4 to 5 years, there's always the chance that all of your good leaders are going to graduate and the group is starting from scratch. That said, I feel like a minimum of 3 or 4 officers, if you at the very, very smallest, and 10 to 12 members at the very smallest end of your group. And then we have groups, our average group size is about 33. 33 members and 5 officers seems to be pretty standard. And once you get above that, that's where I'd say groups are at their most stable.
All right, we need to do AV setup for the next talk, which will start at 11. Thanks to Lyz again.